Hey, welcome to ConCarolinas Television. I am Bronner.
And I am Ray, and we have a very special episode for you guys today with two amazing guests. Um, let's start with the lovely lady. Ladies first. Tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Elle Marie Wood. I'm a psychological horror author and screenwriter. Um, I have I've lost count now. I want to say 8 books that are out in the world. The ninth is coming soon, but they're out in the world. I've got 10 screenplays, 5 feature length and 5 shorts that are making the rounds in the festival circuit. So I've been pretty busy.
Busy lady. All right. Up next, our second guest. Who do we got here today?
My name's Dan Jolly. I've been writing professionally for upwards of 30 years now. Started out in comic books, writing for Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and Image and Top Cow and basically everybody. Got into writing novels, media tie-ins, and original books. Done some writing for video games. Done a tiny little bit of stuff with Hollywood. Um, I, have words will travel, basically.
Yeah,
Shit.
some modest people on the panel today. These are incredible guests that have incredible accomplishments, award winning. I mean, just super, like, have a super fan base. I mean, we're really honored to have them on the show. So thank you guys for coming onto our show. It's very
Absolutely.
exciting.
Thanks for having us.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. You're welcome. So, what got you guys into the writing game anyway? I mean, I know, Dan, you don't look old enough, if I may say, to be writing for 30 some odd years.
I appreciate that.
Did you start when you were 2 or
I started when I was 19. I had
still
been
pretty
writing
early? Yeah.
I'd been writing short stories just basically for my own amusement for a long time, and I went to visit my older sister in Macon, Georgia, where she was going to college. And this is how long ago this was. I went out to the mall to the video arcade
Oh,
and was hanging out playing some video games, and I met a girl at the arcade there. Asked her out on our first date. Told her I like to write short stories, and she said, "Well, have you ever considered writing comic books?" And I said, "Well, no." I had read comic books like for as long as I could read, but I never thought about writing them. And she goes, "Well, I know a couple of professional comic book artists, and I could introduce you." And
Wow.
so, she introduced me. The guys were Craig Hamilton and Tony Harris, and they decided that they liked the cut of my jib well enough to introduce me to some editors, and it went from there. They showed me the door, and I walked through it. But
sounds like
I've
you
told
barged right through it.
Right?
well, okay, I've told that story.
I'm
I've told that
here.
story in the past, and people have been like, "Well, that doesn't help anybody trying to get in. That could never. That's like lightning in a bottle."
Striking, and
But
that's
that's
what
how
it
it happens,
happens.
right?
Yeah.
Like, how did
I
it
Yeah.
mean,
happen for you, Elle?
yes and no. Just a tiny little bit more. Um, you can you can manufacture that kind of synergy, if you want to use a pretentious word for it, by going to a convention. There are creative types at conventions that are looking to partner up with people. If you're a writer,
Sure.
go meet some artists, um, form some relationships, try to do some collaboration. You can do kind of what I did.
Mhm.
Good
Mhm.
plug.
So
Nice.
I better get that same compliment that you gave him because, first of all,
You look dynamite. I mean,
thank
I
you.
think you might be one of my children.
I'm
You
just
look
saying,
so young.
I must have it because I've been writing for over 40 years. He and I are the same age,
Oh,
which when he said his age, I'm like, really? Oh my gosh, we
He
look
said his
fantastic.
age.
We do not look our age, and that's that.
no, not at all. It's got to
But
be writing that keeps you young.
I
seriously,
didn't
I'm
say my
sorry.
age, but she
That's
did
what it is.
math.
That's what it is.
She did
I've been
that.
writing since I was 5. So you say, well, how did we start? I mean, birth, I think, for me. I don't really know any. And I've
You were
always
scribbling in
been,
the womb.
it's always been psychological horror, ish. I mean, psychological horror lets you do a lot of things. I mean, your mystery, your thriller, your suspense, your some traditional horror aspects, and then you've got the psychological piece too. And my first story when I was like, I kid you not, 5 years old, was this cool psychological horror thing that at the end I even said, and then I woke up. Like I still want to write something that says "and then I woke up" even now because I loved it. It was great. And but I was a kid. I was a kid, and that was a short story. Well, it's probably what we call a novella now, so it's pretty long. And I gave it to my mother and my grandmother, and they were suitably terrified because they're thinking, I'm sure not because of anything that was scary in the piece. They were probably just like, this came out of this
This is
5-year-old
my
child that
kid.
lives in the house
Right?
with
This
me.
is
Oh my god. But
quick.
then
Check
I
under her bed in the closet. I mean, that's what I'd
exactly
be doing.
right. And then I just the screenplay piece came a little later for me. So I was writing these things that I didn't know what they were going to be. And then I would watch, and you'll love this reference since we're you will get this reference. Flip Wilson, do you remember?
I did.
Okay, Geraldine, that character, right? Funniest character to me on the show at my 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old mind. Thought that was hilarious that Geraldine was happening. And I was starting to write down what Geraldine was saying. Back in the day, there was no, VCR, no pause. Put it like
No
this: you can't
TiVo,
pause the
right?
TV and get up and rewind it to see what happened. No, you had to be quick with your pencil or crayon, as it were, right? So I was writing down the lines and just trying to. I didn't realize I was trying to understand timing, but now my adult mind looks at it and says, sure, that's exactly what I was doing. And it ended up that I was writing this stuff because I was going to look into screenplays. And I actually went to college. My first my bachelor's degree is in film production, communications with a focus in film production from Howard University. And then I promptly did nothing with it,
Howard.
right? Promptly did nothing with it. Started working the 9 to 5 that had nothing to do with any writing, and like literally just started living that life. But it doesn't go away. If it's like being born with it the way that I was, the itch doesn't go away. So
Right.
years and years and years later, I said, stop being ridiculous, write a screenplay. And I wrote the screenplay, and I said, now what? I didn't have any connections. I didn't know, like literally, I knew no one. So I said, what do I do? I mean, what does one do after they've written something like this? So I found out about festivals. Mind you, I went back to school. I have I don't know, I must really like school because my MFA is in English and creative writing, but with a focus in screenwriting. Like, I don't know. I think I like school.
Yeah,
And
you're glutton for
so
punishment.
I said, well, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what that's about. But so I said, okay, what do I do with this thing? And I said, there's these cool festivals. Oh, well, let's see what happens. And that's where, I am. And so the networking happens there. It really, really
Right.
does. And so I've met some people who have been very, very important in just my growth in terms of, knowing what to do with the piece, knowing who to talk to, trying to figure out an elevator speech, which is hard. Forget it. It just really is hard. No one, people will tell you all these cool ways to do it. It's still difficult. It doesn't matter. And that sort of, trying to find my way definitely happened from knowing no one, having no introductions, and having been an author. Even I was a published author by the time I started doing the screenplays, like for years. That
Mm.
still didn't mean anything. It's a different world entirely. So yeah, it's been a while, but it's been fun, and I've learned quite a bit.
That's awesome. And how about Dan? Did you? I mean, has your goal always been to maybe get your books turned into movies? I don't know how that works as someone that is writing the written word. Do you even want to have it on the big screen? I mean, other than financial motivations?
Uh, okay, I'm gonna get like super real about this.
Sure,
Please.
please.
Maybe a little realer than I should, but I'm gonna tell you
Should we be
exactly
scared?
Honesty. It's all honesty.
exactly what this means to me. I would love to see some stuff of mine get turned into movies or TV shows because that would mean that I would have the financial freedom to go off and write books as much as I wanted to.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, unless you win the lottery, basically, as an author, you're not going to have an enormous amount of control or even input into something that gets adapted onto the screen. Um, I'm trying to have a little control. I've written several pilot scripts, adaptations of my own novels,
Hmm.
attempting to get things on the screen, and that's you're in a little bit better position if you can do that. Maybe get a Robert Kirkman style executive producer credit instead of like consulting producer where they pat you on the head and tell you to go sit in the corner and be real quiet.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've
Um,
heard.
do I want a career in Hollywood specifically? No. I want to write books. Would I love to get some stuff made so that I can write more books? Yes.
That's an excellent answer to that question. And I just wanted to say that, like, both of the stuff that I've seen about both of your guys' works, I mean, I could literally see just, I mean, even by the cover art, not even reading the synopsises or anything, I can see like Hollywood. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense,
Mhm.
but I can totally see, like,
This
you
is the
know,
CCTV prediction.
yeah,
That's what
Right.
we're
and
doing.
Well, one little addition. I do have a manager in Hollywood, and he's actively trying to get some stuff of mine made. Like the little bitty tiny bit of TV stuff that I did, a co-writer and I sold a pilot to Nickelodeon, and it was on the fast track. It was going to get made, and then Viacom, the parent company, fired all of the executives who were shepherding that project along. And
uh,
the new people came in and just swept everything away and like, okay,
Yeah.
we don't
start
make
fresh,
shows like
right?
yours
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um,
Which why
but
Nickelodeon went this way. I
That
you
just
know.
kind of fizzled. But there's a
well,
question in the chat, and I'm curious to know if you were given the opportunity, would you be okay to give up complete control just to have that out there?
give up complete control.
That's what the
That would
question
need
is.
that would need to be a sizable check.
Okay.
That would need to be a series of sizable checks. And like, and I told my manager, I'm an introvert. I'm not terribly interested in like being a director, like being on set, telling everyone what to do and how to do it all the time. And he said, "You say that now, but if you sell two or three projects of yours
Hmm.
and you know things maybe don't go exactly the way you think they should,
Right. It's your name on
maybe
it.
it's adapted from my work, but they've
Right.
turned my profiler who hunts down metahuman criminals into an anthropomorphic dog with a raccoon sidekick. um, you might be a little more willing to take some control. We'll
Yeah, I
see.
think
I don't
I
know.
think that's a Stephen King book or movie or adaptation.
That is.
Interesting comment though. I mean, I think that what's important for people, because I don't know what the audience will be. Then you might have people who are just here hanging out with us, and I want to say some things that if you're here hanging out, but you're still looking into like actually doing this as a career, that giving up control is a reality, right? There are several different paths to getting a movie made, right? You can sell it, and you could have the people who buy it say, "Wow, we're going to keep every single word."
Right.
That's not good. Of that, well, that could happen, right?
It doesn't
Right.
But
happen
you could
often
sell
though.
it. Doesn't happen often, right? You could sell it, and then they say thank you very much, and then someone comes in and guts it, and then they're just the bare bones, and now you've got a story that you don't really recognize, but you kind of think you do, but your name's on it. And then that's made. And we've all heard stories of authors who have had novels. I mean, big authors, Anne Rice, Stephen King, didn't
Yeah.
like, the movies that were made from their work.
And a lot of the
Um,
fans don't either.
Right.
well, in
Especially
some
the
instances,
fans.
I mean, I personally, I thought Interview with the Vampire was fantastic, right? And I
Some
read
of
the
them
book
do
and
knock
watched
it
the
out of
movie.
the park.
But
But
again, as an author, I mean, we are married to our words, right? We write these words down. We and as a novelist or a short story author or whatever, you control that. I mean, sure, you have editors, of course. You have an editor
Hmm.
that takes a look at your work, but that's mostly grammatical. You get some line editing, but and not to get too technical, but that's you know developmentally, a lot of authors, once they're seasoned, after a while they pretty much know where they're going with their story, so you're not getting that kind of edit, right? So your words are still kind of your words, and the story goes the way you said it was going to go. And when we're putting out a novel, or and definitely with short stories. So as authors who write that kind of medium, it's difficult to go to screenwriting and then have someone say, well, okay, you said an orange wall, but I would like it to be green. But if it was orange for a reason,
Right.
it going to green is going to change the whole story, right? And it doesn't matter if that's the color that whoever bought it wants it to be. So you then have the option of producing it yourself, right? That, and sometimes that can mean you're standing there with, as the director, and you're doing all the, I was gonna say you're directing, of course you are as the director, right? But if you're
Brilliant
Doing that
epiphany.
directing.
if you're doing whatever, you could be doing that, or you could work with a producer that hires all the rest of that team, and you just sit back and wait for the final product, but you still have creative input.
Yeah,
So
Percy
you don't
Jackson too.
lose all of your effort, and your story is still
Right.
being told. But I mean, if you think about it, like when you watch a movie that you like and it wasn't a blockbuster movie, you didn't see it in the theater, you might have caught it on Netflix or Amazon or whatever, or any of the other streaming companies now. There's so many at this point. Take a look and
Crazy.
see. Writer, director, producer, same name, maybe, often, yes, because they
Okay.
want the creative control, and so there
So
are options.
you brought up a brilliant point, or I think at least a good point, is that they nowadays you have that huge arena of opportunity because there is Netflix and Prime and Hulu, and everybody seems to be making original content, right?
Yeah.
Original movies, original TV shows, and with huge amounts of success. Okay, but I think with like shows like The Witcher, where they kept the author so close to that show and respected his vision
Yeah.
of what this thing was about. So I think that's kind of the new direction.
Mhm.
Like you are literally spent so much time trying to make budgets work for movies that can't be encapsulated in an hour and 30 minutes. So, oh, guess what Game of Thrones kind of did was they kind of gave you that
Longevity.
yeah, that longevity. And I mean, they're even writing stories now that aren't even original content for that group of books.
Mhm.
I just think that there's a huge opportunity now or at least a bigger opportunity for not only to get stuff made because they're hungry for good original content, obviously, because they're making remakes of movies that should never ever be remade. So
Yes.
yeah, start with original context, and that's all you really have to do, right?
That's all
And
you really have to do.
Well,
Well, I mean,
it's a good
that's funny
start.
that you said
if
that's
it's
It's a
good,
good
all
start.
you have to do. I mean, I love
right?
it when people say that if it's good, someone will make it. I mean,
Not
yeah,
necessarily.
maybe. That's the hope, right? I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
want. But
But I mean,
yes.
there's a
Mhm.
cliche out there for a reason that the movie was not as good as the book ever,
Oh, sure.
ever. So, like he was saying with Game of Thrones, they're giving us these series options. Would you prefer to have your work adapted to a movie or a series? Because the chat asked that, and I'm very curious.
Oh, the
It depends upon the story. I think you can't just, not every story is going to be suitable for that longer series form. Like if you were adapting a novella, that really translates beautifully into a feature length film, believe it or not. Whereas a novel is almost too long. You almost need to go into the series idea. But a series, if you think about it, is like a television show, like the old television shows that would come on each week. Think
Right.
Dallas
That they
or
called them series, right?
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you definitely have to write that differently. You need cliffhangers. You need breaks in the storyline that don't necessarily exist in the book, right? So when you get to the series piece, you've written so much additional content to create this longer form thing that it's good, but it's just different from what the original form was. And I think short stories definitely are great for those two sort of anthology type of movies, where like the creep show, old creep show movies where you had this
Oh
one
yeah.
thing happen and the next thing happened, not connected but written like they're all in the same comic book.
Right.
So it all really depends upon what kind of story you're dealing with.
But
And
the go ahead.
well, there's the rise or the return really of a format that I've loved seeing, the limited series.
I was
Yes.
just going to
Now,
mention that on it.
because like when we were kids, there'd be a mini series that would show up on television, and it would show every night from 8 to 10, Monday through Friday. It'd be one story, and that's it, done.
Yep.
And those just kind of went the way of the dodo for a long time. But now I'm seeing more and more limited series showing up on these streaming services. And I think it's fantastic because it's not shoehorning content into a format that maybe doesn't quite fit it.
Right.
So, if you've got, like I just watched season 2 of this Norwegian cop show called Wisting, and it was based on a novel. The first season was I think 10 episodes. It was based on 2 books. The second season was based on 1 book. And it was 6 episodes, and that was exactly the length that it needed to tell the story, and that was it. And I just think that's a fantastic approach to
And
to material.
and it's really common a European practice to make limited series. I mean, they did it with like Luther, they did it with Sherlock Holmes, or Sherlock with Benedict Cumber,
Batch.
Snatch. Um, I did that on purpose. But in any case,
But
that
everybody knows who you're talking about.
like Midnight Mass that was just done on Netflix. That was
Yeah.
based on a short story, but it was like 13 episodes. Now I never read it, so I don't know what kind of creative, you know,
liberties were
liberties
taken.
they were
Yeah.
taking. But
Mhm.
that's a great point. I'm so glad you brought that up about the limited series things. So that just increases the fact that there are at least more channels
And
to
it's
get
then
what you
the
have.
one other thing the streaming services do that's going to make it easier on people like El Marie and me. Like Netflix is expecting people to binge these series,
Mhm.
and the cliffhangers are
They
not
do
as
too.
important.
It's true.
Like
Yeah.
it's a whole bunch of episodes that I've seen of series original to Netflix. Just each episode just ends.
Mhm.
Like it
Mhm.
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily end on a cliffhanger or end on any even a significant note. It just stops,
Yeah.
Right.
and they know you're going to pick the next one up. Like they don't even do like previously on Bumbersnatch.
No, they
Um, you
Or
know,
you can skip it.
or
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it gives you the option to skip it.
Yeah.
They're
I
like,
don't know what I
"We
think
just
about
watched it
that.
5 seconds ago. We're not gonna watch that."
Yeah. I don't know what I think about that, though. I think that just changes the whole feel of watching a series. I think I need to also get over it too, to be honest. I think I might just be living in the
It's
past.
probably a little of both, really.
But you have that option to pause and just walk away and compose yourself.
That's true. That's true.
Hmm.
But we are bingers. We have to binge.
yeah, I think of that as oh, I hear my cat starting to throw up. Button, like hit the button, go take care of the cat, come back.
I thought you
That's
meant it
actually
was
hilarious
literally
because
doing
my
that
cat
right now.
vomited while I was on a conference call yesterday.
Oh,
And but the silly thing is, I said, "Oh, hang on," and hit mute, and
it
then
didn't mute.
hit it again. No, it did. I turned it off so that they
Oh.
could hear him vomit. I didn't mean to, but they heard him vomit and me going, "Did you have to do it right next to my foot? Wait a minute." It was-
Wow.
At least they know
God,
you
I
were
was
being
on mute.
honest. Next time I'm on a conference call, I'm gonna have to use that as an excuse. So hold on, my cat's throwing up. That's
That
gonna
should
good.
be like this is not I can't take credit for this, but that really should be an option for an alarm tone
Oh,
Yeah.
on your phone. Because if you own a cat, that sound gets your attention faster than anything else.
Oh,
definitely does.
dog. Our
The
dog.
That's
dogs
a good
too,
idea.
they got the gunk 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 thing going.
Don't do that. Don't.
It's terrible. We don't need the demo.
I
We
don't
know
need-
this
I
one.
wanted the sound effect to be there, for the audience, of
I
course.
bet you
Right.
weren't expecting this episode to be so vomit intensive.
Right.
Well, it is, psychological horrors and all.
Right. I didn't figure out a way to weave this into my next piece.
We're gonna weave this in. But in the meantime, I have to know. So for both of you guys, what is your favorite piece that you've done? Like the one that is just close to your heart? Your favorite child?
I've got the corniest answer ever. And since you're looking like a deer in the headlights, I'm totally gonna say this one. Honestly, my answer's so corny. It's the current piece I'm working on. I'm not even kidding. I fall in love with the piece I'm on. So I'm working on a novel. The title, I think it's gonna stay. It's called Imprint. I love it. For screenplays, it's my last one. The one I just finished. Inexorable. I love it. Because for me, it's corny, but let me give the real reason for why. I feel like you should, as a writer, be completely into that piece. Like nothing else matters. Like that's the thing you talk about all day long. You can't even, people
Your
are asking you, hey, how
relationship.
you feeling? And you're like, yeah, well, this is what happened in my book. I literally told my husband today, I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't kill this guy yet. I'm trying to get her to kill him and she will not kill him. She keeps talking. I have to handle this. He's like, that. I was asking how you were doing. I'm like, this is how I'm doing. He is still alive. He needs to be dead. That's what I'm doing. And you should just be so engrossed and so like totally like it to be so overarching in your life that you are, that's the one that if anyone asks you anything about it, that's the one that comes to mind. So for me, my most recent work.
Well, and I'm going to echo that, and because like in theory, the way it's supposed to work is that the more you do something, and the more you practice a craft, the better you get at it.
Mhm.
So the
So
way
as
it
you go on,
should work, the last thing that you did is the best. And so why would I not be closest to the best thing that I've ever done? Um,
well,
like
you
people
could be
come up.
tired and old and jaded about it. I mean, like
I'm
I'm
not.
just
I'm not
doing
that
this,
old.
you know.
Right. No,
I'm.
we're
I'm.
You
not.
said you
I'm not
were.
that
You
old yet.
tried to convince
Old
us.
old is not connected to us. Not when
Yeah.
I realize that I'm the same age as him. You cannot call him old. You by extension, you're calling me old, and I cannot.
Right, right. Well, you're timeless though.
We already discussed
That's
the
good.
fountain
Okay,
of youth that's going on over there. So
that's perfect. Now I've heard the best thing ever. I'm okay now.
So my thing is would it be safe to say that you're in love with your current project? Like that's your love interest at the time? Like do you fall in love with what you're writing?
Totally.
Yeah.
So how many times have you been divorced?
Oh my, so many. I just cheat. No, it's not divorce. I've just got a bunch
Oh,
of.
you're just a
I'm
cheater. I got it.
it's just a bunch of
just
side
no.
project.
Right, exactly. We got the
Just
side
a
project.
side
That's how we
hustle.
say it. We've got a side project.
It
Okay,
didn't
let me
mean
say this. I've written
anything.
just about 175 short stories, so I have like a lot of side projects.
You have been divorced a lot.
A lot.
Mhm.
So that's and how long have you like in the real world been married?
This is what is this 2022?
Yeah.
24 years.
Oof.
So the
24
poor man
years
has
in
had
your
to deal with it quite a bit.
that is crazy, right? I'd have been like, yeah, I'm going to the Ramada Inn and I'm checking out. How about you, Dan? Is it your love interest at the time? I mean, do you have that
Um.
kind of emotional attachment to your
Oh. Okay. So I've been married for 12 and a half years now, and
you still got half the distance to go to catch El
well,
Marie.
I know. Mistakes were made in the past.
Oh, I got you.
Um.
I'm there.
But Tracy my wife's name is Tracy. She is invaluable to my creative process. She will tell you that she's not very imaginative and not a creative person, and that is a patent falsehood.
Mhm.
And she is the best sounding board that I've ever had. And like I don't like to go to her with every single story issue ever. Uh, but like if I'm having trouble with anything and I go and explain what's going on to her, and like 9 times out of 10 she's like, oh well, what if you do blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, that's perfect. that's that's
Of
that's
course.
exactly what I need.
I'm glad I
So
thought of it.
it's kind of I don't know, this is gonna sound silly, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it fits in with the tone I think that we've set here. My latest work is a third partner that I invite in with Tracy and myself, and it entertains us together.
You're a triad. I got it.
Sure, yeah.
That was fantastic. That was fantastic.
Okay, so just a really quick question that's not related to screenwriting and anything at all.
Uh-oh.
But have you ever written your significant other into your book or books or
Heck yeah.
Content.
Not all the way. Like he's not like a carbon copy of my husband, but we were just talking about one of my books was just released as an audiobook, one of my novellas. And he just got around to finishing it. You know, I say it like that. It literally just came out. So he didn't like hesitate. It just got done today. And he was talking and I said to him, because he was like, yeah, this character, I can understand why there's, some issues with this one guy. But I said, think about it though. He could either just be clueless, and I just pointed at him. And he was like, he nodded because it made sense.
That's awesome.
Or, he could be clueless, or this crazy stuff could be happening. And he was like, I got it. And because it was patterned after this one specific thing that like he has been doing for we've known each other 27 years. The whole time. There's this one thing he does, and it's like it's almost like you don't see what's right in front of you, and he continues to do it. So this guy does the same, not about something different, but he does a similar thing.
Same concept.
He identified himself.
Right, and it was basically like, fair enough.
Right.
I'll take it. How about you, Dan? Have you ever written your significant other? Indeed.
Not like a 1-to-1 comparison, but
Okay.
and I do the same thing with myself. Just aspects of my personality get scattered through the work, and aspects of Tracy get scattered through the work. So eventually, if somebody knows either of us or both of us are reading one of my books, they're going to read something that they can totally hear in my voice or in Tracy's voice.
Right. So they'll just catch glimpses of it. All right. So, okay. So back to you, Elmarie. What was the name of that novella that just was an audiobook so I can...
Telecommuting.
Telecommuting?
Yeah, telecommuting. It's fun. It's quick too. It's it's like not even 3 hours to listen to. And it's about a guy who put it like this. It's a pure psychological horror story. So he doesn't know what's going on, and neither do you. And you kind of unravel the whole thing together. And at the same time, you get to see these glimpses of a person who's suffering from isolation, what it can do to you, but he's also still working. So it's not he's isolated, but still works, but he works from home. So he's still dealing with that, existence. And then there could be something going on, and he is not sure if it is or isn't. So it was pretty fun.
Nice. And Dan, do you have anything for me to add to my list that you want to maybe share with everybody? What should we read of yours? Like if we just met, your shelf at a bookstore, what would we want to pick up?
To pull up?
Well, I wouldn't have one shelf is the problem. I kind of have two speeds, and it says this on my website. Like I write really, really visceral action, horror, suspense stuff that is patently R-rated, but I also write for kids. And have for years and years. I've got like kids' middle grade novels and YA novels and graphic novels and stuff. So if you're a grown up, then seek out
He's a grown up.
Okay, all right.
Barely.
Then my latest novel is my first ever fantasy novel, and it's called The Rune Master Homicide, which is a hybrid fantasy detective story.
Beautiful cover too.
Well, thank you. If you are not a grown up, then I have an Audible original audiobook called House of Teeth, which is I guess it qualifies as urban fantasy, but there's nothing urban about it. It's a contemporary fantasy set in the Louisiana swamplands, and it's been really, 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 really popular.
Really successful. I mean, I just looked at some of the images of it and looking at the counter as it just kept ticking up and up and up as far as reviews and listens and whatnot.
Yes, that's because Audible made it free.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Free. So that's exciting.
So, yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Excellent.
Free means
adding to the list.
Free means no profits.
Oh, they didn't pay you.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. I was
How can they do that?
Well, no, okay, it's all right. I mean, I got an advance for it, but
All right.
because it came out and immediately there was a pandemic, and so Audible was like, oh hey, we need to make a bunch of stuff for kids free,
Mhm.
so that they can have things
Enjoyment.
enjoyment. Yeah, so I mean, I'm thrilled that it has reached the audience that it has. It's only if I decide to put on my mercenary hat that I like maybe grumble a little bit, but it's the positives far outweigh the negatives,
Mhm.
and it's a fun story.
So, two-part question. Half of it's the audience, half of it's me. The audience is curious about what you guys read as kids. And I would be curious if there was one author that you could sit with and just pick their brain, like somebody that you idolize as an author. Who would it be?
I'd love to talk with Ira Levin. I would just
Yeah,
love that conversation. That would
that
I
would be.
love the way that I mean, oh boy, I just love the way that you just fall into his stories. You fall into the apartment building and feel like you might have an apartment across the hall from Rosemary. You fall
It's very
Crazy.
into
relatable.
I
it,
love that.
Yeah.
very relatable. I mean, just the way that the dialogue is written makes you feel like you either overheard that kind of conversation or might have had the conversation yourself. And that to me is really important to keep because it's such a fast moving thing. I mean, he was a playwright, so he had a different rhythm to his work than what some just prose writers have. So I would
Right.
absolutely love to pick his brain, and I did read him when I was young. Stephen King. um yeah, I would absolutely love
Yeah.
to speak with Ira Levin. That's a great question.
All
All
right,
right.
Dan.
What
The
about you, Dan?
the three big names that were super formative for me, kind of a disparate bunch: Dean Koontz
That's my dude.
and Larry Niven and Louis L'Amour.
Oh,
I
Wow.
read every Western Louis L'Amour ever wrote.
yes.
Really? That's a
That
lot.
was
Yeah.
that was my grandfather's favorite. I used to have his collection.
I think
Well,
he put a
Well,
book
one of
out
his
a
favorite.
week for 70 years.
my parents had the Zane Grey books. They had
Uh-huh.
all of the Zane Grey books. I never got into the Zane Grey books, but they were sort of casting about for something after they read all the Zane Grey and they found Louis L'Amour, and that connected with me. So, but I think if I could talk to somebody, Larry Niven's ideas were uh, just so amazing. He just made me think about like the world and the universe in ways that I hadn't before. Um, and his Ring World is the obvious inspiration for Halo and
Hmm.
various other things. And I'd love to know what his process was for world building.
Yeah, great answers, guys. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So let me
Yeah.
switch back to the whole um, adaptation and screenplays and that kind of stuff, real quick. Have either of you in any, even if it was for a game, like a game that you wrote or whatever, have been on like the set? Like, did you catch a bug? Were you there? Did you? I mean, obviously, you're like, I'd do it if I had to, but I really wouldn't want to. But what was it like to do that if you've even been there?
Well, the closest I've come to that is participating in voiceover recording sessions for video games. And the best experience I had with that was working on Transformers Prime, the game.
Oh, that
There
would
was
be
a
fun.
TV series called Transformers Prime, and so
I remember it.
I worked on the script for the game, and they decided to fly me out to LA to participate in the VO sessions. And it was like the rest of the cast went and recorded at this one studio, but Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime, liked a different studio. I don't know why. It might have just been closer to his house. But I arrived at the studio that first day, and one of the other producers arrived at the same time. We were walking through the parking lot together, and there was like a Ford and a Nissan and a Toyota, and a Bentley. And the producer goes, "Oh, Peter's here." But I got to be there in the studio while Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime, recorded lines that I had written, and that was it was things were angled at such a way he was like around a corner, so I couldn't see him, but it was a good thing because I was at the back of the studio grinning like an idiot
Right.
the whole time. I mean, I was like trying really hard not to just burst into fits of giggles because this guy, this mythical person that I grew up watching, first in the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon as the voice of Venger.
Yeah.
And he was the voice of Eeyore for a long time as well.
Yeah.
And then Optimus Prime is recording lines that I had written, and I got a picture with him.
Oh, nice.
That sounds so cool.
That is a great story.
That was like almost one of the ultimate fanboy moments, right?
I know.
Seriously, right?
Yeah, well, I was turning into the ultimate fanboy there in the studio.
Yeah, I can
That is
relate.
My story isn't nearly as cool as that, but it was cool to me at the moment, and it's still like honestly, I think it's kind of cool still. I mean, because there's nothing like hearing your words spoken,
Right.
acted
Right.
out. So I was in this film festival, and it was coming out of Atlanta, but we were in the middle of the thing that shall not be named, and it was all online, so we're doing it just like we're doing here. And it was kind of neat. It was a very involved festival. Not all of them are this involved. So we had like, meetups that were online, and we had discussions, and we had panels that you could either attend. I taught a class. I was like, what? I mean, I taught a class. It was great. Did that. And then we had this like the first pass of whether or not you were going to become a finalist, just having and so I made it to being a finalist, and it was in front of this audience, and that was fantastic. And then they sprung this cool news on us. Well, the finalists are going to be able to have a table reading of their work, it's like first 10 pages or something like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're going to read it like, and I can like listen? And it wasn't just me, it was like everybody who was attending the festival was going to watch this table reading and listen to this. And then
Oh, that would be awesome.
they started reading my work first, and I was like, the camera's on, and I'm just like, and I was at the end of it. I mean, I didn't even think maybe you should turn your camera off and just close your mouth. Something. Get yourself together.
Somebody got a
Calm down.
screenshot of that somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure someone has it, and they're just waiting to put that up.
Right.
But it was over, and you have these actors reading it, and they're like, they're sitting. It's just like it's a table read, but they're still, they're expressing, they're emoting, and I mean, it's cool because I got to hear how certain things sound coming out of somebody else's mouth. Because I don't know if you do this, but as a screenwriter, I'll read some lines because if I'm trying to write it and I'm having trouble, I'll say it out loud and try and figure out what my problem is here. And so I could hear like, oh, I'm glad I fixed that. That sounds better. It's better than it was before. Just listening to the guy saying it, and all the different like just intonations and inflections and all these things live in our heads, right? And then you get to hear someone else do it in front of I don't know how many hundreds of people were at this thing. And I was like,
That's awesome.
it was fantastic. That was super cool.
All right.
That would be amazing.
So going from those warm and fuzzy and great moments, let's continue it. And okay, so upon completion of what you're working on, how do you celebrate? Do you pop a bottle of champagne?
She's taking a nap.
That's what I know. It's not a nap. It's just oh my God, I finished it.
Okay.
Now, is that feeling come after your editor says, "Yeah, it's good, it's going, or is it as soon as you're done, typing?"
You're just like, forget it.
For me, it's when I'm done typing, I'm just happy that I actually finished it, because there's a point somewhere I'm always like, I'm never going to finish this thing. I cannot figure out how to get to the ending that I wanted. So forget it, and it happens. And I don't listen to that side, but it still like happens. So I'm just proud of myself for finishing. So I will sit back. I'm not kidding. I recline in the chair just like that. It depends upon the time of day, because I may then go screaming through the house, telling everyone that I finished it. And we toast with a glass of Pepsi, again, depending upon the time of day. If it's late enough for me to have a glass of wine and not have to have anybody, looking at me and asking why I'm doing this at 10 in the morning, I'll have a glass of wine.
You tell him because I'm an adult.
I'm like Blue
Right.
Label. I'd be like Blue Label, 7 o'clock in the morning. I
Right.
don't care.
Right.
You earned that. Yep. The chat says you earned that. And you did. Dan, you look
Really?
like you agreed.
Yeah.
Are you like
Oh,
screaming
yeah.
through the house?
Well, especially finishing the first draft of a novel. For me, that's the first draft is the hard part. I've always found editing easier than the generating. So yeah, when I get to the, because usually I know what the last few lines of the last chapter are going to be, and I'm like writing toward that.
You just have to
That's my
get there.
that's my destination, and finally getting there, it just feels so good. It's like having just finished a really delicious meal, and you kind of want to just sit back and let that digest for a
Right.
while,
Unbutton
and
the top button and just
yeah, yeah, collapse on the couch, unbutton, you stick your hand down your pants and like
All right, Al
Um,
Bundy.
Al Bundy it.
Al
Yeah.
Bundy.
yeah, exactly. And usually I'll take like between 5 days and a week just completely off.
Oh yeah.
Just
Oh yeah.
completely off. Because I write in bursts anyway, and like typically I'll finish a scene and then I got to go do something else and it may not be for very long. It may be for half an hour, but before I come back and do the next scene. But I have to like let my brain cool down and reset, come back to the next scene fresh. And if I get a first draft of a novel finished, then I really have to let the whole process wind down before I can come back and look at it again.
Mhm.
Ooh, that leads me. So, writer's block. A, does it exist for you? And B, how do you combat it?
Well, yeah, it exists. It I had it for about 7 years, so didn't mean I didn't write anything. It just meant that I didn't write what I write. I didn't write psychological horror at all. I mean, I got it. I understood. I mean, we have these life moments that change you as
Yeah.
it were, and I had one of those, and so I had a 7 year drought. But I wrote what I didn't say was I wrote for the local newspaper about gardening, which I know nothing about.
So,
So I had to do all this research, and
she
it
has
was
a PhD
horrible,
in
and I
BS.
still don't like it. I don't want to garden at all. But I was trying to tell myself, keep it up, and this is what you'll do. This thing right
Oh.
here that you don't like at all. This is what you're gonna do. And it came back it came back when I needed it to come back. So yeah, it's a real thing. I
So
think you
that
have to, have patience with yourself and believe it. You're not, because you can't force anything. You can't force the ending of a story. You can't force a character to do what you want it to do when it's already been developed in a specific way and it's just not going to do it. And you cannot force yourself to write. You can't. So you have to understand, from my perspective, that it's a real thing and treat it as such. But for me, I don't allow myself to procrastinate in general because I know that if I do, it'll, whatever that thing is, will never get done. I'm a huge procrastinator if I
right,
allow it, but I don't.
right.
So at the same time, I wasn't writing what I wanted. So I said, good. So write this. I don't want to hear it. Write that. And you don't want to write that, then write the other thing. So
Right.
that works for me.
So just for
All right.
future motivation for you, let me tell you that if you just go to Lowe's into the gardening department, when you have some writer's block, just to remind yourself,
This will be the thing if you keep it up.
Just take a stroll around the garden section.
or just buy one of those little cactuses. It can be a fake one too,
That's
and
true.
just say, "Yeah, let me describe that in 400 words."
That would be enough. I'd come up with something totally scary. It would be great. What a great exercise. But yeah, that's just worked for me. But you have to know yourself. Like you really, because I knew I could, if I could not get myself out of it, then it was like this was something that was going to exist for a long time.
Right.
I require
And so
a
I had to be
shrubbery.
patient because I love this thing. So
What about you, Dan? What helps you out?
Well, so okay, um, man, I could get into a whole other panel's worth of stuff about should you go to college for a creative writing degree, because boy, there's different opinions on that. and different interpretations. I had
Next season, we'll
I
do
had
that.
two I had two significant creative writing classes at the University of Georgia. One was really good and I learned a lot. The other was almost completely useless. But from the useless one, I got one useful thing, and that is that you can train yourself in a sort of Pavlovian way to be creative. And it's all about creating a circumstance, a sort of ritualized circumstance uh, that prompts your brain to limber up the creative part and get the juices flowing. Now that it's different for every person. It can be you sit in your favorite chair with your favorite blanket over your lap. It could be you sit under a tree and put your favorite hat on. Whatever. You
Right.
make a cup of hot chocolate. As long as you establish this pattern and you write when you have achieved these circumstances.
Right.
When you're training yourself to do this, it doesn't really matter what you write or that you write amazing things. It's just that you put yourself in these circumstances and you write something. And you do that, and it depends on the person, a couple of weeks, maybe a month, um, your brain recognizes if you impose those circumstances on it, oh, it's time to write.
Right.
And I did that to myself accidentally when I was writing comic books full time. My first step in the process is to get a sketchbook and draw like 22 little rectangles representing the 22 pages of a single issue, and map out the plot points and uh, distribute them among the 22 pages. I learned much later that that was like a really basic form of storyboarding. I had reinvented the wheel on a very basic level. But every time I sat down to do that, I got my sketchbook and started drawing my little 22 little squares, rectangles. By the time I had drawn the 22nd rectangle, man, I was ready to write a comic book. Um, and it's a really good thing because I had a lot of tight deadlines. So you train yourself to be creative in whatever way is practical for you. And for me, if that doesn't work, I'd go get in the car and drive around and listen to loud, aggressive music, and that like does something with my alpha waves or whatever. And by the time
Mhm.
I'm driven around for 45 minutes and come back to the house, I know what to do in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So since we're coming to the end, um,
We're getting there. It did go by fast. I
Yeah.
think it went by too fast.
Yeah.
It does though. It just happens
You-
that way.
We should do a part two.
We
We
should.
will do a part.
We
yeah,
should.
I
yeah,
need a
we're
part
booked
two.
up for the
I have a
rest
lot
of the
questions.
season, which is right before ConCarolinas. So we're booked up, but we are wide open after ConCarolinas, so we're doing a season 2. So
We have signed up for a season 2.
yeah, we've been renewed for another season. Um,
Like it's you. We have wonderful guests.
yeah, like it's not me at all, because I'm just not really good at this, but I am good at getting great people. So, or getting great people to get great people, or something like that. But my last question is going to be like what is the mother of all screenplays to you that you wish you wrote?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Ooh. We had to end on a tricky note.
One comes to mind that I'm really glad that I didn't have to write.
Godfather?
That works.
That was Inception.
Yes.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's a good idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
Mm.
would have been such a colossal pain in the ass to get all of that,
yeah.
to get everything right with that so that it held up.
I still don't know if
Right?
they did get it right.
No, they
because
get-
I'm so confused that it doesn't
I
matter.
love that.
I
I think they
love-
did get it right.
I think they got it right too.
I'm sure
It wasn't Multiverse of Madness. It was
But I haven't
Inception.
studied it.
Woo, throw in Marvel shade.
I haven't
No, that
actually-
wasn't a spoiler alert.
Oh my
No.
goodness.
I haven't seen it, so I'm just saying.
You gotta study it to make sure that like A gets back to B and B gets to C. I haven't studied it, so I just assume they did it right. That's
I think
Yeah.
I agree with El Marie. I think they got it right.
I think so.
I do too.
like the dots connected and everything.
So Inception, that was great. Great. That That's one that you wouldn't want to have done.
Definitely.
But what
not.
is one that you want to put your name on or wish you had your name on?
You
Like,
know,
what you look up to?
there's a movie called Very Bad Things
Love
that
it.
is like a dark comedy.
Christian Slater. I loved it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
movie is fantastic. It has it all. I don't even go in for like humor and horror at all, not at all. But it's so dark, but it's so funny. It is so funny. You're
It's
and
a
you're
good
like, what
movie.
is the matter with me? Because I am cracking up, and this is so incredibly
Right.
horrible.
You're not supposed to.
Is it
But you're
supposed to be
supposed
funny?
to.
Like
You're supposed to.
embarrassed. Like you don't want anybody to see you laughing out
Right.
as hard as you are.
That's what I mean. You're like,
Oh man, and it's so good. I really wish, like, I look at that and I'm like, gosh, if I could like write something that funny and that dark at the same time.
Yeah, I completely 100% believe that it was the writer's intention
Mm-hmm.
it
to
has
have
Oh,
to
I'm
it
be.
sure
fun.
of it.
It
Yeah.
has
It's
to be.
so good, that movie. I mean, like, if you have never seen that movie, just do yourself a favor. It is so good.
Oh,
I agree.
hands down, it's great.
So you had mentioned Inception, Dan. What is the one that you want? What is your golden acorn or whatever?
Well, okay, like a lot of the stuff that I write is pretty serious. It's like fantasy adventure or sci-fi action verging into horror stuff. Even the stuff that I write for kids is usually a lot more serious than funny. I mean, I'll manage to get a couple of laughs in here and there, but
Yeah,
nobody's going to look at my body of work and go, "Oh, a comedy writer."
right. Mel Brooks. What?
Um, but I wish I'd written Dodgeball.
Oh,
I love that stupid movie. That's it's if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a
can
ball.
dodge-
Oh my
I
goodness.
say
know.
that every time someone brings up dodgeball. It was the other day I
the
said
other
it.
day we were talking about dodgeball, and it.
That's a movie that no matter what I'm doing, if I walk in through a room and it's on, I'll stop what I'm doing and watch the movie.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't blame you. I
it's,
thought it was brilliant too. And brilliant comedic actors with brilliant comedic timing. I mean, I'm just a big, huge fan of the guy that was just in Freaky. What's his name?
In what?
oh, Vince Vaughn.
Vince
Oh,
Vaughn.
yeah.
Vince Vaughn, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why his name escaped me. I've watched everything since that Swinger. Was it Swingers movie that I was
I
in?
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's incredible. And then Justin Long. I mean, there was all kinds of good guys in that.
Good stuff. going
Stephen
on there,
Root, Stephen Root's character in that was amazing.
Steven, he's the older guy.
The one with the glasses and the
Yeah.
Oh,
the
Yeah.
mail order bride that hates his guts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he was amazing.
all,
And the
all those
pirate
characters.
guy.
Alan Tudyk. It's Alan Tudyk. Yes. And watch Resident Alien if you haven't. By the way.
Resident Alien.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Alan
yeah.
Oh,
Tudyk's
he's
current
in that.
show.
He's
Yeah.
that show. Yeah,
He is that show. Yes.
yeah, he is that show. What? Did you just make fun of me?
He did, and I laughed at it.
And I snorted at it.
But it's accurate. He is that show.
He is
It was
that show.
hilarious. And you just totally like kept going.
It
Yeah.
was like didn't even notice. And then he went, wait a minute.
And then it just hit me, and I was like, "Dang, Jolly's got some chops. He's cutting me down."
I thought he didn't do humor.
Yeah, right. You should be a comedic writer, okay?
You were quick with that one. You really were.
I might give it a shot.
Yeah. And then write the actual, like, to my best friend,
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Bronner, for
Right, and those
inspiring
who
me.
encouraged me.
Yes.
You know?
That inspiration was there.
Never mind the dedication to my wife. It's going to be all for you.
No. Yeah. Was it Tracy? Come on now. I'm the best friend because I snorted at his joke.
I'm sure she laughs if his jokes are funny.
So yeah, I think the snort count was somewhere like between 5 and 7 this episode. So I really appreciate you guys making me embarrass myself. But we have to close the show. We're 5 minutes over.
Aw.
because we're having such a good time. But I really, really want you guys to come back. You're a fantastic panel. I can't wait to put you up on YouTube and see what people say about me.
Oh, of course.
I'm an egomaniac, of course. But next week on ConCarolinas television, we are going to go to Mortal Kombat and do some major trivia challenge. Now, of course, the other team doesn't know this yet, but me and my lovely bride are challenging Don Darrow, who owns this channel, yes, you, and Arugs from the internet, yes, you, and we want to challenge you to some Mortal Kombat in trivia questions. And we're gonna wipe the I don't know what
I
you
don't know
call
what
it.
this we thing is.
Yeah, because she's not real good at trivia,
I'm
but
horrible at trivia.
she's real good about telling me. Like if I'm sitting here and I'm telling a story, she'll tell me what I'm telling wrong, right?
Well, yeah.
What is
Right.
that
So
about?
all I have to do is do a wrong answer to a trivia question, and she'll chime in with the right answer. I've got it. I got the formula down. We're gonna beat you. So that's next week on ConCarolina Television. And then we've only got a couple more weeks. So go to concarolinas.org, hit that purchase badge.
Don't forget your coupon code.
Shoot, I didn't raffle, Sean. We didn't raffle, Mr. Producer Man. Okay,
We'll make it up next
that
week.
is on me. Next week, I promise. I'm sorry, chat, but if you come next week, I will give 2 badges away. I'll make it up to you. But that is June 3rd, 4th, and 5th here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So please come down, go to concarolinas.org and look at the website, look at all the amazing things that we have going on with authors alleys and panels and
There's a
Mikey
lot.
Mason.
There's something for everybody.
Just Chuck Gannon is our guest of honor. Just come down, check out the con. It's going to be a great time, and it's really going to be the first time everyone's going to be together after the whole
I
pandemic
know it's
thing.
exciting to get
So,
out and about.
Yeah, so come on down, and yeah, we will see you next week at 8 o'clock Saturday on the same bat channel, Twitch, TV / Dondero, the Dondero. But for that, I'm Bronner,
And I'm Ray.
and we want to wish you some peace and some love, and we're out. And thank you guys.